Macbeth. I mean, just saying the name feels a little dangerous, right? For more than 400 years, this play has been this magnetic, terrifying force in our culture. It's famously short, it's brutally fast, and it is relentlessly dark. But what is the secret? What is its source code? Why does this particular tragedy still feel so uniquely unsettling, even today?
Right from the get-go, the play throws us into a world that's completely upside down. The witches' chant? That's not just some spooky poetry. It's the operating system for the entire story. We're entering a world where good and evil are interchangeable, where ambition and madness look terrifyingly similar.
So let's treat this like an unsolved case. What makes Macbeth tick? We're going to go on an investigation, and we'll be using the scholarship of A.R. Braunmüller as our guide. Together, we're going to uncover 4 key clues that help explain why this play continues to haunt audiences century after century.
Okay, so our first clue isn't actually found in the text of the play itself. Nope, it's in the very specific, very anxious world it was born into. See, this play wasn't written in a vacuum. It was written for a king.
You have to remember, Shakespeare was an incredibly savvy writer and businessman. The new king, James I, was famously obsessed with witchcraft. He even wrote a whole book about it, called Daemonology. And he traced his own family line back to the historical figure of Banquo. So, Shakespeare writes a play with terrifying witches and a prophecy that Banquo's descendants will be kings? Yeah, that was no accident. That was a brilliant and maybe even a little dangerous appeal directly to the king's personal fascinations and his ego.
And the witches in Macbeth, they weren't just generic spooky figures. Braunmüller's research points out this really key difference between Scottish and English beliefs at the time. In Scotland, the fear was much more focused on diabolism, a direct personal pact with the devil. And the punishments, the witch trials, were known for their relative ferocity. So Shakespeare was tapping into a very specific and much more potent vein of terror for his new Scottish king and his court.
All right, let's move to our next clue. This one moves beyond the supernatural to something even more fundamental: time. Because Macbeth isn't just fighting other noblemen for a throne, he's waging a war against the future itself.
Braunmüller calls this core concept the future in the instant. Think about it. The moment Macbeth hears that prophecy, the future isn't some distant, foggy possibility anymore. It becomes this concrete, oppressive reality that exists right now. It's a poison that infects the present. It's what drives Lady Macbeth to feel the future in the instant and what forces Macbeth's hand.
And this right here, this is Macbeth's whole tragedy in a nutshell. He seizes the present, he gets the crown, but he immediately learns he has no future. The prophecy says Banquo's sons will be kings, not his. So his crown is fruitless, his scepter barren. He has become a dead end in time, a king with a lineage that stops with him, a king with no tomorrow.
So, how do you defeat a man who's trying to control time? Well, you send in someone who exists outside of it. The prophecy says no man of woman born can harm Macbeth. But Macduff, he was delivered by cesarean section, untimely ripped from the womb. He literally breaks the rule. As the source material points out, he's untimely in every possible way, which makes him the absolute perfect nemesis for a time-obsessed tyrant.
Our third clue is woven right into the fabric of the play. It's the language. The words Shakespeare uses are just as unsettling as the murders they describe, creating this constant sense of dread and, well, strangeness. You can actually see the play's linguistic signature in one single key word: strange. It perfectly captures that feeling of things being unnatural, uncanny, and just wrong. And how often does it use it? According to Braunmüller's analysis, that word appears 16 times in this very short play. That's way more often than in almost any other Shakespearean text. And this repetition isn't just lazy writing, it's atmospheric. It's Shakespeare hammering home the idea that the natural order has been completely shattered, and it keeps the audience totally off balance. The source also points to this fascinating contrast in how Macbeth speaks. When he thinks about King Duncan's goodness, his language is just beautiful and poetic. He imagines his virtues will plead like angels. But when he talks about the murder itself, he can't even name it. He uses these simple, evasive euphemisms. It shows us a mind that can poetically describe a good man, but can only speak of his own horrific crime in these chillingly simple, deceptive terms. It's the language of a mind completely at war with itself. So for our final clue, we're looking beyond the original text. We're looking at the play's long and frankly bizarre life on the stage. Over the centuries, Macbeth has proven to be a kind of mirror, reflecting the anxieties of every era that performs it. It's incredible how much the focus of the play has shifted. In the 1600s, an adaptation turned the witches into a singing, dancing spectacle. Then, actors like David Garrick zeroed in on Macbeth's internal psychological horror. By the 1800s, powerhouse actresses like Sarah Siddons made Lady Macbeth the absolute center of the play. And then, of course, in the 20th century, filmmakers like Akira Kurosawa reimagined the whole thing for the screen.
It's almost unbelievable to us now, but for a huge chunk of theatrical history, the witches, the source of the play's cosmic terror, were treated as a joke. This description from 1833 says it was standard practice to have them played by low comedians. Can you imagine? It completely defangs their horror, turning them into simple comic relief. It's just wild.
But eventually, the culture shifted back. Artists like Henry Fuseli looked past that goofy stage tradition and saw the witches as Shakespeare probably intended them, as these dark, powerful, and deeply frightening figures. And this really shows how every generation has to decide for itself what it finds truly terrifying about this story.
So what do all these clues add up to? The royal connections, the obsession with time, that unsettling language, and the play's shifting identity on stage? What is the ultimate source of Macbeth's enduring, disturbing power?
Well, it turns out the play isn't just a horror story. It's a philosophical trap. The scholar Helen Gardner, who Braun Miller cites, she just nails it. She describes it as the great debate on free will, turned into drama. The entire play hangs on one single, unanswerable question.
Was Macbeth doomed from the start? Just a puppet of fate? Or did he freely choose his bloody path? Are the witches even real? Or are they just a metaphor for the darkness that was already inside him? The source argues that the play gets its terrifying power precisely because it doesn't solve these questions. It refuses to give us an easy answer. It traps us, the audience, right alongside the characters in this state of profound and disturbing uncertainty.
So in the end, Macbeth doesn't give us a verdict on its hero. It simply shows us a man who is given a glimpse of the future, who then makes a choice. It holds up a mirror and asks the most unsettling question of all. Faced with that same temptation, what would you do?